Welcome to another episode of Life and Whiskey. As always, I'm Jordan, and today we're going to be blending our budget whiskeys that we got. And excuse me if I'm going to be looking down here, and if the audio quality changes when I look down. I got my lapel mic on, but I have my notes here of what it is I want to blend together. I have not tried any of these, so this will be brand new. It may work, may not work. And then what I did was I created a profile that I wanted. So, for example, the first one I'm going to try and blend together is going to be a bourbon, and it's going to be a sweet slash floral bourbon. And to do that, I'm going to blend together 10 High, Ancient Age, Old Crow, and Ezra Brooks. I think that's going to add in the characteristics that I want. 10 High, Ancient Age, and Old Crow are going to bring in those apple, floral, sweet notes. And then I threw in just a little bit of the Ezra Brooks 90 proof to kick the proof up a little bit, and also bring in just a little bit more of that oak for a finish. So we'll see if that actually works. But the whole goal was, during this COVID-19 outbreak BS that everybody's having to endure, to find some budget whiskeys, and I think all of these actually drink quite well. We got the Scotches, the Canadians, and then all of these are bourbons. This is an American whiskey, which means that it's blended with basically a vodka and then some straight bourbons. And then I added the Evan Williams Black Label because it's just over $10. It's $10 and change. And also the Scoresby here, that one was just over $10 as well, just so I could have a little bit of variety. But the whole thing was to try and find some whiskeys that you could go out and find for under $10 and actually appreciate them, and not have to struggle with them or fight through them. They are on the low end of proof. The flavor might be a little bit watery or whatever, but as I said in the other videos, definitely go out, check out what is available out there, explore them a little bit. You might be surprised at what you can find. I keep coming back to 10 High, Ancient Age for sure. Definitely tastes like Buffalo Trace. Even though it's not exactly the same mash bill and stuff, it's definitely a good representation of that distillery. So with that, let's start blending. I'm not going to do proportions. I'm just going to, science this, as they say. I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to blend together some stuff. And it might be with heavy proportion or, just a little bit here and there. I'm kind of going to blend it in my mind how I think I want it to come through, right? So I'm going to start with a base of something, and that's going to be my main whiskey that I'm putting in there that is going to be the most. And then it's just going to be little portions after that of all the contributing whiskeys. And then we're going to have to let it sit for a minute or two. So what I'm going to do is blend the first one, walk through that, then blend the second one while that first one's sitting and kind of marrying together. Now, normally you want to let it sit and marry for a while, but you know what? We don't have all day, so we're just going to go with that and see where that takes us. And then we'll just keep rolling through these. I'm going to do 3 in this video, and then I think I'm going to finish up with 2 more. After I go through and do these blending ones, hopefully I can give you some ideas of where to try and take stuff, and hopefully they work out well. And if not, I'll be honest about those as well. But after I get done with that, since I'm in the new bar here and I have all the stuff available for mixing, the next series that I do is going to be making some mixed drinks. And I could do the classics that everybody else normally does, but there's enough videos out there by mixologists and experts out there that are going to do a much better job than me. So what I'm going to bring to the table are some drinks you probably never heard of or seen before, because I believe I've invented most of them. And you know what? Hopefully that will kind of pique your curiosity as well, and you'll get out there and start exploring new mixed drinks on your own. that you create. So with that, let's get started. We are going to start with my sweet floral bourbon, as I said. So we're going to start with Ancient Age off the top. And this is going to be our base flavor. Now this has this falls right in line with Buffalo Trace. And so hopefully you can see that on camera. That's about how much we're going to start with. That's going to be our base. Now we're going to add just a little bit of other whiskeys to this to kind of bring it around. And let me refer to my notes here. I'll tell you why I chose these. So Ancient Age I went with because it's like Buffalo Trace. It's made by Buffalo Trace. And so in the nose, for me, it had like a candy corn and a floral apple. And then on the taste, I could definitely get that candy corn in there. It was very smooth and rounded and caramely and sugary sweet. So I started with that. And then we're going to throw in some Old Crow. And I'm putting that in there because it brings in that cherry and apple. And then it has this sweet floral note actually in the taste with a little bit of oak. So we're going to add some Old Crow in there. And of course we went high dollar and got the plastic bottle. So, if I'm eyeballing this, I think I just went 3 parts to 2. Alright, so we're starting to fill it up pretty good. So those 2 are going to be our heavy hitters, right? And then from 10 high, it brings a little bit more oak, a little bit more sweet and caramel in there. So we're going to add a little bit of 10 high. Not a whole lot, because those other whiskeys already kind of bring those flavors in there. And so, it's not really contributing a whole lot. And then finally, the last one, we're going to add Ezra Brooks. We're going to bump up the proof a little bit. So far we're sticking in that 40% or 80 proof. Ezra Brooks 90 is at 90 proof, so we're going to bump, basically split the difference. We're going to bump this up by like a point or 2. And we're going to get some of that heavier oak note out of there. So, there's experiment number 1. We're just going to swirl it around. I don't know how well you can get it on the camera there, but it has just ever so slight little bit of legs in there. You can see the stuff in there kind of mixing together. You can see the oils and stuff coming together. Now I have to say on the nose, I've lost pretty much everything. There's no floral, there's no apple. On the nose, I just get oak and ethanol and corn dust. But we'll see where that one goes. Alright, so we'll come back to that one right after we mix up our second bourbon. So our second bourbon that I want to try is I'm going to do a cherry with a Scotch malty flavor to it. Okay, so I'm only going to do 2 on this one. I'm going to use Evan Williams Black Label. So black and green I think are pretty much the same. I think you could substitute them out, but because we got a little bit more proof out of this one, it's at 43% or 86 proof. We're going to start with that because I think that it brings just a little bit more depth of flavor than the green label. And if I need to bump it up at all with that cherry note, I'm going to come back and add more of the Evan Williams green because that has a really heavy cherry for me. And then I'm going to mix in Scotch malt. I'm going to use Clan McGregor because I think that it has a really good malty note to it. And then if I find that it's not quite where I want it to be, I'm going to go to Lauders and I'm going to add just a little bit of that in there. So let's start with that. Evan Williams first. Again, we're starting with a pretty hefty base here of our Evan Williams. And then to that, We're just going to add a little bit of our Clan McGregor. See if we can add that malty, musty note to it. Again, I think we went about 3-2 on that. And just straight away on the nose, we got very hefty, still that hefty cherry oak. So I actually think I'm going to add in just a little bit of this Scoresby, and see if that doesn't bring it around a little bit with a little bit more of that mustiness. So there we go. There's number 1 and number 2. All right. So number 1, again, the goal is to go for a sweet and floral whiskey, a sweet and floral bourbon. It almost has no nose. I mean, the nose is completely gone. If you really, really, really stick your nose all the way in there and close it off, I get the classic Buffalo Trace nose characteristic. So I'm really picking up what the ancient age brings to the table. But it is way down in that glass. You know, it has that Four Roses, Buffalo Trace, very floral, light apple, light fruit note. It's very interesting. So, it's not what I was expecting. The very first 3 seconds that I had it in my mouth, there was almost no flavor whatsoever coming on. It really, really just kind of sat there, and then watery finish went down my throat. And then after about that 3-second mark, it started to evolve, and I'm gonna have to go take another sip and see where it goes, because I want to say that there's probably a minimum of 5 different characteristics in there that I could pull out before it hit that finish. But they just went 1, 2, 3, 4. It just started moving, and it moved very quickly. And I want to say it was quite interesting, and I really liked it, but I don't know if I can even describe what all I had there. Okay, so it was a complete failure, for starters. Almost none of that floral note came through. Like I said, about the 3rd second in, I pick up just a hint of it, and then it moves into very oaky, tanniny, barrel spice, a little bit of ethanol burn. It kind of picks up a little bit of a sweet note after that. And in that sweet note, you could barely get just a hint of really like green apple, and a very floral, like if you go out and stand next to a lilac bush right as it's blooming. But I mean, it's just like boom and gone that quick. So I would almost say that floral note's going to pass by most people. Yeah. And then it just really finishes with a very heavy peppery spice and a little bit of oak bitterness. That was not an improvement. So let's scratch number 1 off. I think if you're going to try and go floral, I would leave the Ezra Brooks out. I think that's where a large part of the tainted notes are coming from. I would go heavier. I might just do a 50-50 blend of Ancient Age, or 75-25 of Ancient Age and Old Crow, I think, if I was going to blend them again. So, that's number 1. Number 2 is our cherry bourbon with malty notes. And I think we might have been successful on this one, because in the nose, I get a lot of the Scotch maltiness right away in the nose. Some sweet vanilla caramel, and just the slightest hint of that Evan Williams medicinal cherry smell. Let's see where it goes. Okay, so this one's pretty interesting. It's a bit flat overall, and I would say for like the first third of the profile, it's pretty flat. Then it kind of gets this oily, clingy, buttery roundedness to it. That's definitely coming from the scotches, and you get this buttery caramel in there. You pick up that musty, malty note, and the cherry that I was really hoping for from the Evan Williams being such a large part of the base is just gone. Let me try another go of it. Oh, on the second go, cherry's right there, very quick, very forward, goes cherry, then into that Scotch maltiness, sweet buttery caramel in there. It's actually very pleasant. I would definitely sit and drink this one. I think it's an improvement. I would cut down on... I think I would not go with the Evan Williams Black Label. I would have started with the Evan Williams Green because it has a way more cherry note in there. I'd probably add in just a dash of Ancient Age and the Early Times. And then I would have not added the Scoresby, and I would have only kept the Clan MacGregor. So I would go Clan MacGregor, 10 High, Early Times, Ancient Age, and I think that would dial in that cherry with that maltiness to it. But what we created, not bad. All right, we're going to set that one aside. I'm going to get out one more Glencairn here. I got to open the box. So new to the new setup here that I don't even have everything ready to go, but that's okay. New Glencairn straight out of the box. We're going to mix this together. And since the one I don't really like, I'm going to take that. I'm going to dump it into my infinity bottle, which I keep upstairs. And the reason why a lot of these bottles are down so much is because rather than waiting till the end of my bottles, I started with pours from each of these bottles to start an infinity bottle along with some of the other stuff that I have. So that's what I tend to do, is take some, like the neck pour of every bottle, stick that in my infinity bottle. So something to think about, or actually maybe I'll just start an infinity bottle down here. My other one's upstairs, but I'll just start one down here in this larceny bottle. I think will be the way that I go. Okay, so number 3 on this video here, it's going to be Scotch with a cherry. So kind of opposite of what I had just done. So we're going to use our Lauders as our base because it has a very sweet caramel and malty butteriness to it. So we're going to start with that as our base. Then we're going to add in Evan Williams for the cherry, and I think we found out that the black is too much, so we're going to go with Green Label for the cherry note. And it's just very heavy corn dust and medicinal cherry for me. So, so just on the nose, I'm getting that's the right move right there. And then just because I think it's going to prove out to be interesting, we're going to take, and once again, take that oak from the Ezra Brooks and that 90 proof, and we're going to add that in there. But we're just going to put a little bit in there. About like that, I think. And we're going to let that sit for just a second and marry in there. Ooh, we might have found a winner here on this one. It's pretty darn good. I can see we're pushing 20 minutes already, so we'll try and get going on this one. But yeah. So in the nose, I think we got it. It's actually like cherry and it's not the medicinal cherry. It's like fresh, like flathead cherries, or just, I mean, like fruit cherry. And then it's got a sweet, malty, musty note to it. So it's definitely got that scotchiness to it, with a real light oak component to it, and then some corn dust to finish it off. So I really like the nose on this one so far. So this one might be the winner. I hope that the flavor profile matches the nose. Boy, I think I hit this one out of the park. That's an improvement. This is going to be my sipper for tonight. So the Lauders brings a really delicious malty caramel to it that is just out of this world, and it's accented by this cherry note out of the Evan Williams green label. And instead of being medicinal like it normally comes off, because it normally comes off like those cough drops, like a Hall's cough drop, it reversed it, and instead of going medicinal, it went like sweet cherry. Almost, I wouldn't say maraschino, but if you've ever had I don't remember what they're called, but they're like I've had cherries that were canned in brandy before, like real actual cherries. It's almost more in that flavor profile, and then you get the oak, and I'm pretty positive that's coming off this Ezra Brooks on the finish. So it's just a wave of flavors. I get an oak tannin in there, a very spicy, peppery note. It moves through, and the finish is kind of confused. I think it needs to sit a little bit longer. But the finish kind of has this oak tannin-y to it, with this creamy, buttery richness that's coming from this scotch, and then it goes into this sweetness that's kind of underlaying it, like that apple sweetness that I get out of a lot of bourbons. I really like it, and I encourage you guys to do the same. You know what? Just start exploring. Go through, and what I did is, if you look at my notes, probably can't see them on the camera. No, you can't see them. That just looks like white paper. But what I do is I go through and nose for all of them. I've nosed them all. I put down my nose characteristics. Then I taste it, and I focus on those first several notes and kind of where it goes and what the journey is through the taste profile. I do that on the first sip. Then I go back for the second sip, and I kind of re-explore that journey, kind of reassuring myself that I found what I was looking for, and I really focus on the finish then in the second sip. And that's kind of how I do it. So then what I did was I took and listed that out for all the whiskeys that I had, and then I looked at the characteristics in there that I really wanted. Now you got to keep in mind how, that flavor that you want, if it comes in the middle, it might be harder to get than if it's in the front or at the end of a flavor profile. So you got to be a little bit careful with that. But it's a lot of fun. Go out there, explore your whiskey collection. If you're a little bit more bold than I am, you might want to try this with some of the higher, maybe not the high-end whiskeys you got, but maybe some of your more budget-friendly, above $10 whiskeys. But you know what? Since I had so many of these laying around, I figured why not? Let's give it a roll, see what we can come up with. I'm going to do one more video after this where I'm going to explore 2 more. We're going to mostly lean into the Scotch direction at that point. But yeah, hope you found this video interesting. Give it a whirl yourself. Thanks for watching, and I hope that you and your loved ones are staying safe during this time of COVID. Hopefully you're one of the states that is now open. Here in Wyoming, we're, I guess, technically open, although it's Wyoming, and we were never really closed, even though the governor closed down some stuff. And with the exception of bars and restaurants, almost everything was kind of business as usual around here. And as always, the mountains and the forests are always open, so that was kind of nice. But if you're in an area where you can now go outside and stuff, take advantage of that. Go replenish your supplies. If you're down on your luck, if money's a little bit tight, but you want a little bit of a bright spot, go out, try some of these budget whiskeys, and maybe you can come up with something interesting yourself. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe the video. Leave a comment if you have one. And stay tuned for the next video. Take care of yourselves. I'll catch you guys later. Thanks again.